If you are leaving, please go ahead. If you're staying, then let's resume the session. We still have 23 minutes. There's just a point I want to make about this matam issue since it's already here. And that is that, I've always been taught since I was young that, an entire majlis, an entire azah of Imam Hussein is from the opening. You guys with me, inshallah? Yeah? One more piece of It's important that when we pay our respects to Imam Hussein, that we don't give certain areas of that majlis more importance than other areas. If the marithiyah, the salam, for example, has its own importance, the speech has its own importance, and then the matam, of course, has its own importance. What's really vital sometimes is for all of us to respect the entire program. Right? From the beginning of the salam to the ziyarat after matam. Okay, a lot of us, what we do is, we leave our home such that we know, okay, right now salam has started, it's okay, I can miss salam in Marcia. We'll get there for the speech and we'll leave right after the speech. As a family in the car, you've already told yourself that right? And that's the idea, is to respect the entire function, the entire event, like Mara said, could be ibadat. So when you stand outside or when you, God forbid, make some noise and you're teaching your children that, look, the speech was very important. This matam expression of grief is not so important. Let's go outside and let's get a headset on the butter. Right? That's what we're doing. We're preaching the wrong message. So please, I ask you, at least to your children, make them understand that from the beginning until the end, the entire process is ibadat and grief for Imam Hussein. Thank you.
One question came in that's pretty relevant to, I guess, the...
They all seem relevant, don't they?
Yeah, I guess they're all relevant. But this one's more, I guess, time-wise, politically. Given like the recent elections and whatnot, should we as Muslims refrain from voting if we believe that some aspects of the candidates violate Islamic core values? For example, like abortion or drone strikes or whatever. So if the candidate has such values, should we abstain from voting or, I guess, vote for the lesser of two?
It's a very difficult question. And it's a fiqhi question that you have to resort and ask your marja. However, there is immense differences in ikhtilaf about the answer about this issue of voting in elections either in this country or in Canada. Because by voting, what you're doing is you're basically supporting that candidate. Now, on one hand, there's an issue of this idea that, look, we are Muslims living in America, right? We have to be part of the society. We can't be a part, we have to kind of integrate into this system, show these individuals that we also have a voice. And by doing that, what we do is we choose that candidate that for us sometimes is the lesser of two evils. The one who might do the less amount of damage. That's one take. The other take is, look, no matter who you vote for, the guy sitting in the White House is a simple puppet to another higher government. Now that's a different discussion altogether, I don't want to get into that. And so what they do is they say, look, there's no point in voting for anybody. It's the exact same policy, it's the exact same system. It's just a different face on television. I don't know. I don't know which one to tell you because, again, there is a difference of opinion in both areas. What I will say is that always keep in mind the betterment of the Islamic Ummah. A lot of people 4 years ago in our communities got really excited when Obama was on the ballot. Okay? First of all, his middle name was Hussein, like, yes, he's one of us. And then he came out and he removed his middle name from any sort of publication or anything. In fact, he just joked about it at some dinner, saying that I wish I could use my middle name once in a while, but he can't. But sometimes, under the Obama reign, there have been at least 2 or 3 Shia centers closed in the US. Not even Bush, across 8 years, was able to close actual masajids in the US. We have so much umid with Obama, but yet it turns out that he did this. So, the point I'm trying to make here, and I don't want to make it into this discussion about politics, and frankly speaking, these kind of questions should not be in this public forum, with all due respect. But nonetheless, it's important that we keep the ummah in mind and have a little bit of insight as to what's going on. And where you find that perhaps by you voting, you're really not going to help the ummah, then again, it's not wajib for you to vote. But where you find that perhaps we should make our voice heard in society, that's a different story altogether. Albeit some say that, look, whether you vote or you don't vote, you can definitely make this idea of you being a substantial part of the community. There are several non-Muslims who don't vote. In fact, I think one of the worst turnouts in most elections is in America. You barely get 50% of people voting. Right? Whereas in places like Iran, for example, you have 85% who come out to vote. So I mean, it's a tough question. It's not a black and white issue at all. It does go back to you as an individual to find out what exactly will my vote mean. And so that's how you make that decision. It's not the answer you're looking for. I don't have the answer you're looking for. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Here's a more jurisprudential question. Could you discuss the rulings on organ donation? Why is it allowable for us to receive organs but not to donate our own?
Again, it goes back to your marja, right? I mean, which marja has what ruling? In general, organ donation is this concept where this body is an amanat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one. That's why it's important for us to keep it safe and keep it healthy and do whatever we can to ensure that it is free from any sort of sickness or any sort of diseases. And so simply giving away donations or organs at our free will goes against that system of the amanat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas there are certain manhaj that allow certain parts of your body to be donated, there are others that don't allow that. And that, of course, is their own interpretation. But the idea is that where you're able to prolong and preserve your life, if that can be done by you accepting an organ, then so be it. But by giving an organ, what you're doing is you're taking that amanat under your control. And it's also that's not your body to begin with.
One question ago. There's a concern of how much that we have, I guess, that how much the marja really know about our society and daily problems in the West. And sometimes we question their rulings concerning controversial matters solely because we think that they aren't as aware as we are. Is that a valid concern?
No. Sometimes, I'll be very blunt with all of this. And I hope you guys can digest this. Sometimes we live in the West and we believe that we are the end all and be all. Sorry. Sometimes we think that the problems that we are going through, nobody else in the world goes through. Sometimes we think that society, how difficult as it is here, let's say, it's very, very rosy everywhere else around the world. The concept of a global village is such that whatever issue you're going through here in New Jersey, there's a youth that's exactly the same age as you, sitting in Lahore, let's say, or Karachi, that's going through worse than you. To separate the world's problems from east to west no longer is there anymore. The idea, in fact, it's quite the opposite. I mean, if you talk to some of the youth in the east, like I have several times, they believe that all of you are living a pretty life. That all of you have the best of the best. Right? In fact, they think what you think of them, they think of you. The point I'm trying to make is, don't think for a moment that the issues that exist in the West are exclusive to the West. They're not. You know, the speech I gave earlier today, I can give that exact same speech in the heart of, let's say, Bombay, India. It would be relevant there. Or in Tehran, it would be relevant there. Right? Or in Europe, it would be relevant there. So with all due respect, this idea of they don't understand our problems, you're not on some pedestal. You're not some, a person who's difficult to understand. You're not some phenomenon with all due respect. I'm sorry, you're not. But the Maharaja don't understand you because they're in the East. Okay, who are you to be understood? You're a simple youth. You happen to live in the West, but the issues are global. You talk to a youth in the East, and those of you who have cousins in Pakistan or India, talk to them. They'll have the exact same issues that you have. So when the Maharaja give out fatwas, they don't have a certain geographical location in mind. There are people who have 30, 40, 50 years of Islamic knowledge under their belt. You see, look, understand this. When you gain that amount of knowledge, it's not about memorizing a few passages in books. It's about the idea of being able to open up your mind and see the world in one shot. That basira, that insight that's given with that Islamic knowledge is what these Maharaja have. So it's not this case that, they don't understand and so, their fatwas don't apply to us. No, I'm sorry, it applies to you as well. They keep everybody in mind. They're fully aware of what's happening in the West as Maharaja. Fully aware. I can vouch for that. Absolutely. I've gone into offices of the Maharajas in Qom. They find out that I'm from Canada, and they name me centers in America. Ulama in Canada. How is this place? Or how are they? And they name specific issues about an alim, let's say, in California somewhere. This guy's in Qom. This alim is in California. He has more information about this center than I do, living in Canada. Don't think for a moment that they're completely ghafil and they're completely heedless when it comes to what all of you are going through. And also what all of you are going through, others are going through as well. I hate to burst your bubble, man. But that's the reality of it. It's a global village. And you sitting in New Jersey and you sitting in Karachi are going through the exact same issues.
Question coming in. Why do we point our fingers during salam? What's the concept of that? And what's the concept of touching the taboo or the alam when it comes out their mouth?
All right. Let's do this. Hubda ziyarat is, first of all, it's an Indo-Pak culture thing to point at during the ziyarat. And that's simply, I think, there's nothing in books to say about this. I haven't seen if it's a mustahab act or not. But as far as I know, the idea of pointing towards it is that because we're far away from the actual graves of the imams that we're sending our salams to, it's almost as if we're sending our salams or pointing at them and saying, I'm sending my salams to you from afar. Whereas if you are to, let's say, like for example in Qom, when we read our ziyarat, when it comes time for us to send our salams to Imam Raza, we physically turn around and send our salams there, because Mashhad from Qom is like this. So we turn around, we face Mashhad, and we come back this way when we say our salams to Imam Qom. That's how it is. So the pointing is nothing that's I've seen people who get upset when people don't point. I don't understand. I don't understand that. It's okay if the guy's not pointing. He's standing there out of respect, sending his salams. Now, the tabuts and others. Okay. We have to understand a couple of basic things about signs in Islam. Let me say one thing off the bat, and I'll be very quick because I only have 10 minutes left. Nobody takes what's behind those curtains to be gods. Point number one. Yes, there are people who respect those signs, who bow down to them, who kiss them, who chum them, who muss their clothes, who do this on them, and that's simply out of respect for what that represents. If they see the Alam of Hazrat Abbas, to them it's a panja, it's a cloth, it's a stick, but it represents the sacrifice of Abu Hazrat Abbas. And that sacrifice to these individuals is azim and respected and great. Right? If Hazrat Abbas was standing in front of us, we would fall at his feet. But it's not, his alam is there. So there are certain people who from afar have the respect, there are certain people who express their love differently, and they cry at the alam. They ask for the du'as at alam. It's not shirk. We don't see that alam as God. To us, we see that alam, it's a panja, it's a flag, but it represents somebody greater. Right? So there are people who have different avenues of expressing that. When a taboot comes around and there's flowers and there's a white chadar and there's like chinte of like red stuff on there. Sorry, chinte is, there's no English word for chinte, I'm sorry. Right? They're just simply commemorating and remembering that taboot that perhaps wasn't there in Karbala. And there are some people, like I said, who will kiss it, some will cry. Look, you have to understand, grief for some people is very different. They have to look at things visually to cry. That taboot reminds them of the fact that Imam Hussein didn't have a taboot on the day of Ashura. And so if he did have a taboot, it might look like this, with the imam on top and all that. And so that gets them going. They get very, very upset. There's nothing to be excited about, though. These are just signs. They're remembrance. That's all it is. There's flags everywhere to remember your country. There are signs everywhere. These are the signs of Karbala. That's all they are. The Quran talks about remembering and respecting the signs of Allah. These are sometimes wasila for us to remember the Shuhada of Karbala. And I'm sorry, but I don't think anybody takes this idea that this taboot is God for me, so I'm worshiping this taboot. No, not the case. Even when those creations bowed down to Adam, they weren't bowing down to Adam. They were doing sajda to the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was a manifestation of Allah's khalqiyat, Adam was. These are manifestations of Imam Hussein's sacrifice. That's it. There's too many bigger issues to talk about. Then why do people kiss Adams? Let them kiss the Adam. It's okay. They feel better, they feel closer, they feel like I'm doing the respect factor. On the flip side, if somebody doesn't feel like walking on that stage, don't think that they don't have love for Hussein in their hearts. It goes both ways. There's the amount of judgment that happens during these first 10 days amongst each other needs to be removed bit by bit. And that's a different discussion altogether, inshallah. So.
I think that should be it for now. I think, you wanted to do the last?
Yeah, you good?
Actually, can I ask a question? Don't mind.
Sure.
It's going back to the idea of how we love the Ahlul Bayt. In your experience, mashallah, being an alim and touring the world, we're Indians or Pakistanis. We have a certain cultural relativity to how we observe Muharram.
Yes.
If you're Iranian, there's a certain different cultural relativity for Lebanese or Iraqi. What I've observed in my community, the Indian Pakistani, is we do a fantastic expression of the tragedy of the personal sense of loss. But I find when I go to the Iranians or the Lebanese, there's a certain balance in that personal tragedy and also the sense of being very revolutionized within the poetic lamentation itself, that it aspires to that higher ideal. We emphasize too much of the personal tragedy in our culture, in our poetry, in our language. Question is, how can we encourage to create something new from within this experience that takes that and then takes that as energy and flame and takes that to the other level of the revolution?
Well, I think one of them is, it's a good question, one of them is the language itself, number one. As Maurizian beautifully said, the poems that were read, and those of you who missed it, you missed, a great effort by 3 of the youth. Just brilliant. I was completely blown away by how much talent there exists in our community. And their expression, they're able to express the deepest wounds of their heart on paper. And this is really what it's all about. You have to find that personal connection to Karbala, and you might do it through words, you might do it through noha, you might do it through simple shirkat in these madarases. But the idea is that now in the West, what's happening is that there is this sense of a language revolution. And I say this with responsibility, and I say it openly. Now it seems that we're trying to now understand Karbala through the actual details of what happened in Karbala. A lot of what our elders know about Karbala, you know through Mir and Nis. Sorry. And because certain words rhymed in his poetry, he fit them in there. May God bless his soul. What they're trying to understand is through actual books by the ulama with proper sanad and proper narrations on what exactly transpired. And that's happening through English. Another thing is the actual speakers. 10 years ago, the idea of English speakers was unheard of. The idea of English Masai was unheard of. We're still not at the English Noha stage yet, but we're getting there. But now we have individuals, I've had people come to me while I'm here, who may not understand English and not even a powerful language, but they come to me and say, they're shocked the fact that in English they can hear the Messiah Imam Hussein and still cry. That means that it's not limited to a language, and we've limited Azadar to a language. Now we're starting to see that, look, it's much more than the Urdu language. This can be expressed in a language that our youth understand, and we're still able to benefit. I've been to centers who are very, very, very keen and absolutely stern on the fact that only Urdu. Right? And when I end up arriving at that center, the most culturally driven individuals will sit in a speech in English. And it's a revolution happening, at a very slow pace, mind you, but a revolution happening. And that's what I think has to start off with, is at least the amount of content and information that we have about Imam Hussein Karbala is changing. Our connection is changing. Our youth are now expressing their connection. Before it was reading someone else's words on the stage. Now you're writing your own words. And you're expressing that grief inside of you. And when others hear that, it's a whole revolution that's starting.
Could you just say about so with that, I guess I would like to conclude our event. On behalf of the Baptist Youth Group and the Header Youth Group, I would like to thank you all for coming to this first joint event. It's actually really wonderful to see, I don't think I've ever seen this much of you guys in a while. And this just shows the extent of how much we can gather and come in numbers when we combine underneath the unity. So to end it up, I would like to ask Mawlana Asad to recite Dua for it's like the Dua for unity.
Anybody here knows the Dua of unity? Oh, wait. Everyone knows it? Majority? This is yes in my world? This is no. Something, just give me something. No? Nobody? Oh, sorry. If I start, you can join me? Yes. Okay. So we read Dua. Sorry. No. We read Dua. Dua. Yeah. And we do it by joining hands.
No.